Let me tell you the incredible story of Michelle Ledbetter, a woman whose life took an extraordinary turn. Michelle was pronounced dead for a good 45 minutes during a harrowing incident. At that time, medical personnel cut her clothes off and used paddles to try to restart her heart, which had stopped beating. From a distance, it seemed as if Michelle could see people around her physical body screaming and crying. However, she wasn't aware that it was her own body she was observing, because her consciousness was elsewhere. In that other place, Michelle felt something indescribable. Imagine absolute love and peace enveloping her. There was nothing else to feel but that overwhelming sense of calm. She was greeted by familiar faces, people she had known in the past, and it felt like coming back home. Michelle described it as feeling incredibly safe, truly at home. Welcome everyone, and a heartfelt welcome to our special guest from Lloyd, Florida, Michelle Ledbetter. It's a pleasure to have her join us today. It's exciting to dive into her near-death experience, especially since she's a hospice nurse with unique insights and stories that inspire faith and hope. Although it was the first time speaking with her, it felt as though we were old friends catching up. Before getting into the heart of her story, let's learn a bit about who Michelle is. She's a registered nurse, certified in hospice and palliative care, with over 20 years of experience as a hospice nurse. Her nursing career spans 30 years, but her true passion lies in hospice work. Michelle is also a proud mother of 2 beautiful daughters, a grandmother to 4 grandchildren, and a bonus grandmother to 2 more. Her near-death experience profoundly changed her perspective on life, and she hopes her story resonates with those ready to hear it. Michelle isn't here to change minds but to share her journey, offering support to anyone who finds a spark of inspiration in her words. For those new to the show, we're not about pushing agendas or changing beliefs. We aim to stay non-denominational, simply sharing personal stories that often bring hope to others. That's the kind of positivity we want to spread in the world. Now, let's dive into the pivotal moment in Michelle's life. Her near-death experience stemmed from a severe car accident that occurred on February 13, 2019. The altered reality of her near-death experience unfolded the following morning, on Valentine's Day, during surgery. It extended over a 5-day period, though Michelle isn't entirely sure of the exact timing within that span. As a hospice nurse, she was traveling from Montana to Texas for a new assignment when the accident happened. A snowstorm was brewing, and being a Florida native, she wasn't accustomed to such harsh weather conditions. It was a long drive, and fatigue likely played a role. As she moved into the Colorado area, the snow blew sideways, obscuring her vision. It was around 7 in the evening, after starting her journey at 7 in the morning, when disaster struck. Michelle was following the taillights of a truck ahead because she couldn't see the road. The truck went over a pass, but she missed it, and her car plummeted down an embankment. When her vehicle came to a stop, Michelle had sustained severe injuries, a lone burst fracture in her spine, a broken back, and a traumatic closed head injury. Her first memory after the crash was waking up to a profound sense of peace, which was surprising given the circumstances. One might expect panic, but Michelle felt no fear as paramedics worked to extricate her from the wreckage. She was traveling with her small dog, and the paramedics, who seemed almost angelic to her, took them to the first hospital. There, imaging revealed the need for urgent surgery. A compassionate nurse at the hospital allowed Michelle's dog to stay on her lap, providing comfort as she drifted in and out of consciousness. When discussions arose about impounding her pet, this nurse stepped in with an act of kindness that left Michelle in awe. The nurse promised to take the dog home and care for it as long as needed during Michelle's recovery. It was a moment where Michelle felt truly loved and supported. A neurosurgeon soon arrived, explaining the urgency of transferring her to a trauma unit for surgery. He mentioned having performed an astonishing number of surgeries. Michelle recalls it being around 10, though her memory was foggy due to her injuries. The first flicker of fear came when they mentioned impounding her dog, and the second when the surgeon discussed operating on her spine. Despite these fears, a sense of peace lingered within her. Michelle doesn't recall being wheeled into the operating room or being put under anesthesia. What followed was an experience that defied explanation. Michelle found herself in what she describes as a warehouse-like setting, though it's hard to find the right words. The atmosphere was dark, cold, and damp. At the start, she sensed the presence of her children behind her and felt an urge to draw them into this strange place. Though she didn't speak aloud, it was as if she could hear their thoughts. When she turned to invite them, their response was disheartening. They seemed to say, "Mom, you've really messed this up, and we're not interested in joining you." A wave of fear and abandonment washed over Michelle as her children turned away, walking out through a heavy door with a window. She rushed to the door, watching them disappear into a barren, colorless landscape that looked as though it had been cleared by heavy machinery. Everything was in shades of gray, black, and white. No vibrancy, no life. Then, Michelle's life review began, though it wasn't linear. Time felt elusive in this realm. Everything seemed to happen simultaneously yet in sequence. It started with childhood traumas she had endured, reliving them as if they were happening again. The emotions were overwhelming. Fear, confusion, abandonment, and guilt compounded within her, leaving her unable to comprehend what was unfolding. The scene shifted, and she saw a patient she had cared for years ago, an HIV-positive man lying in bed with his arms raised, in evident torment. Michelle felt deep sadness and compassion, immediately thinking she needed to find his partner to ease his suffering. But before she could act, another scene emerged, a little girl whose identity was unknown to her at first. As Michelle witnessed this girl's childhood, she realized the abuse this child endured was even worse than her own. She wasn't just observing, she felt as though she was in the girl's spirit, experiencing her trauma alongside her. It was as if Michelle was in a personal hell, grappling with her own fears while simultaneously living through this child's pain. The next vision was of a little boy facing bullying and torment, a fearful and horrible situation. Michelle was terrified, with no understanding of what was happening. Then, a warm sensation began at her feet, slowly moving up her body. In her fear-driven state, she felt compelled to look up and saw light seeping through cracks in the ceiling of this dark warehouse. Initially, she thought it was lava, believing she was in hell and about to be burned. The light poured in, brilliant white with hints of orange, gold, and yellow colors unlike any she had seen in real life. In terror, she bent over, muttering profanities and pleading for it to be quick. The next thing Michelle knew, she was lying in a hospital bed, yet the warehouse experience lingered. She was in two places at once, both in the bed and still in that dark, cold space. Looking over, she saw an African-American woman sitting in the corner and asked why she was there. The woman replied, "I'm here to help you, to keep you safe." Suddenly, the woman morphed into Michelle's Caucasian sister, leaving her bewildered. Desperate to escape, Michelle pleaded for help, thinking this was family who could get her out. Unbeknownst to her, during this altered state, she was physically acting out her hellish reality in the hospital. Despite having just undergone major surgery, with 2 bars and cement holding her spine together, plus a traumatic brain injury, she tried to get out of bed. Staff had to physically restrain her to ensure her safety. Slowly, over an unknown span of time, perhaps hours or days, Michelle began to return to reality. She realized she had just been through what felt like hell and decided not to speak of it immediately, as the experience was too awful to revisit. As she recovered, she noticed a large eyeball in the corner of her room, fearing she was slipping back into that other reality. Thankfully, it was just a camera monitoring her progress. Eventually, Michelle was discharged and returned home, but she was in a terrible state. Having been on her way to a new assignment, she had no job and no insurance yet. With only $8 in her bank account and her best friend dying of cancer, she reverted to old coping mechanisms. Struggling to process emotions, Michelle turned to drinking and became addicted to pain medication, spiraling into chaos for 2 years. Taking a moment to pause here, it's clear that Michelle's story is unique, even among the hundreds of near-death experiences shared on this platform. Her journey to hell and back stands out as particularly unusual. She only began processing and speaking about it in October, after years of silence, as the last 4 years have been transformative for her. Michelle describes them as magical and miraculous, filled with insights gained through prayer and meditation. She was even invited to present at the International Association for Near-Death Studies conference in August, as only about 2 to 5% of people report such hellish near-death experiences. Many may hesitate to share these disturbing accounts due to fear or stigma, but they do occur, and Michelle's courage in speaking out is commendable. One question that arises is whether Michelle recalls leaving her body during this experience. She explained that it wasn't a typical out-of-body moment where she floated above herself. Instead, it felt like a containment within. She was present in her physical and emotional self, while also feeling the emotions of others whose spirits she seemed to inhabit. It's a complex sensation, hard to articulate, but it was profoundly real to her. These disturbing experiences often involve multiple hellish scenes, and while Michelle's wasn't as extreme as some, where individuals report seeing devils or enduring severe abuse, it was deeply personal and transformative. It changed her completely, to the point where people who knew her before hardly recognize her now. There came a turning point for Michelle when her feelings of fear and abandonment shifted to something positive. At her lowest point, burdened by an aversion to religion and God due to past abuse, her view of love and life was distorted. But one day, while lying down to pray or meditate, she began to see things differently. Insights emerged, revealing the roots of her struggles. Notably, during her hospital stay, she wasn't medicated due to her brain trauma, which explained the need for constant supervision. Through meditation, Michelle came to understand that the 2 children she saw in her vision were her abusers as children themselves. She saw why they became who they were, and why she had made certain choices, like leaving an 18-year marriage. Her inner struggles and skeletons were surfacing, even if she hadn't realized it at the time. Michelle was shown that she, like her abusers, had forgotten her connection to a divine source of love, whether one calls it God, Mother Earth, or universal consciousness. This love is the essence of life within everyone, often obscured by conditioning and societal beliefs. She began to see the Bible differently, not as a source of fear, but as a guide. Basic instructions before leaving Earth. The grace and unconditional love that flowed through her extended to her abusers, lifting a weight she hadn't even known was there. This revelation was astonishing, opening her eyes to a new way of seeing life. During her life review, Michelle felt extreme empathy for those she had hurt, experiencing their pain as if it were her own. She also saw why she had acted as she did, realizing that her inner purity had never left her. It had simply been covered up. The light she initially feared as lava was actually the light of love, illuminating the wounds in her soul so she could view them from a fresh perspective. At first, fear blinded her to this light, but once she confronted it, asking how she could see things differently and what lessons were there to learn, the process became gentle. Though the emotions resurfaced, she no longer numbed them with alcohol or pills. Instead, she faced them, understanding the barriers she had built to protect herself from love. With those barriers lifted, Michelle could see the grace in all people, recognizing that many are simply disconnected from their source. She received insights on transforming negative energy, fear, pain, and darkness into elation by practicing mindfulness and recognizing emotional discomfort as a gift, a sign that something deeper needs attention. For instance, anger in traffic isn't about the other person. It's a reflection of internal struggles. Michelle believes that if society taught us we are inherently worthy and connected to the light of life, perspectives would shift. In one meditation, she was shown that every life event, good or bad, is an opportunity to remember this light. The contrast between light and dark helps us rediscover who we are. Michelle sees this as a universal truth, akin to teachings attributed to Jesus, though she acknowledges some might find such views controversial. The lessons from Michelle's near-death experience were life-changing. Initially, she learned empathy for her abusers, allowing her to forgive and release that burden. But ultimately, the greatest gift was extending that same grace, love, and compassion to herself. This opened doors to profound happiness and transformation. Beyond her personal journey, Michelle's work as a hospice nurse offers further insights. She explains the difference between terminal agitation and visioning, two phenomena often confused. Visioning involves patients engaging with an energy source invisible to others, as if they're between two worlds. She recalls a patient from 3 weeks ago who was reaching toward God, having a vivid conversation. The energy in the room was intense, a sacred moment often missed due to society's fear of death. Terminal agitation, however, is different, an uncomfortable state where patients may appear distressed, picking at clothes or trying to get out of bed, much like Michelle did during her own experience. Only love accompanies the soul back to its source. Michelle's near-death experience has made her a more compassionate hospice nurse, especially in understanding terminal agitation. She now sees it as a sacred undoing of what no longer serves the person. With sensitivity to others' beliefs, she offers reassurance when invited, promising that the discomfort won't last and will transform into a state of golden liquid love. Her work has solidified her faith in an afterlife, confirming that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. The light of love that sparks life at conception remains accessible, and connecting with it transforms life. Once fearful of connection due to her past, Michelle now finds immense honor in guiding others through their transitions, approaching death from a heart-centered space without fear. She shared 2 powerful experiences with patients that reinforced her belief in the afterlife. The first involved a man in a long-term care facility, an atheist who didn't believe in anything beyond the physical. Michelle worked with him to open his mind to possibilities, challenging him to imagine his ideal afterlife. He envisioned being in a forest, near rivers, climbing a mountain. On the morning of his passing, Michelle felt compelled to arrive early at the facility. As he began his transition, she sat with him, recounting his vision of the journey ahead. Despite his weakened state, he whispered affirmations that their shared vision was working. Alone with no family, Michelle cheered him on, encouraging him to climb that mountain. As he took his final breaths, a glow and smile spread across his face, leaving Michelle in awe. She witnessed his energy leave, a film-like distortion, like heat waves on a road, visible as his blue eyes dilated. It was one of the most beautiful deaths she had ever seen, affirming our divine connection to the source. The second experience was with her best friend Brett, who had colon cancer. After 4 months in the hospital with an untraceable internal bleed, he was sent to a hospice house with only 3 days left, according to doctors. Miraculously, the bleeding stopped during transport, and Brett insisted he had been healed, begging Michelle to take him home. Skeptical but supportive, she brought him to live with her, and astonishingly, he survived 16 more months. During that time, they shared magical moments, living each day fully, despite his borrowed time. Brett opened Michelle's eyes to unconditional love and a deeper connection to God, teaching her to see life differently in her 50s. On his final exhale, she again saw that energy film leave his body, accompanied by a tender smile that captured the grace of the moment. Being present for such transitions, though often avoided due to fear, is a profound privilege for Michelle. Finally, when asked about her fear of death on a scale of 1 to 10, Michelle confidently answered 0. She has no fear, not because she's eager to leave, but because she feels connected to that divine light here and now. When the time comes to shed her physical form, it will simply be a bonus. Her story is a testament to transformation, hope, and the enduring power of love beyond this life. Thanks again for listening and sharing this podcast. Don't forget to hit the follow or subscribe button and sign up for our newsletter at roundtripdeath.com. If you want to share your near-death experience, or if you have questions or comments about the show, send an email to eric@roundtripdeath.com. Until then, we wish you everything good that you're looking for in this life and the next.